Chapter 1: The Emergence of a New Species. Humanity had always been seen as a curious species, small in stature, but marked by a drive to explore, innovate, and survive. They were not the first sentient beings in the galaxy, but they were the first to display something no other species had: unyielding tenacity. Born on a fragile planet, Earth, humanity evolved under harsh conditions that forged them into a species that would one day become the most feared warriors in the galaxy. For centuries, humans lived on Earth, a world teeming with life, yet ravaged by natural disasters and violent conflicts. The environment constantly tested them, and they adapted in ways that few other species could. The human mind became sharp, resourceful, and creative, as their ancestors struggled to overcome the planet's dangers. However, it wasn't just their intelligence that made humanity formidable. It was their instinct for survival, a relentless drive that would later shape them into the galaxy's greatest warriors. The first glimpse of humanity's potential came when they took their first steps beyond Earth. What was once a species confined to a single planet now sought to conquer the stars. Their early space exploration was cautious but ambitious, fueled by their curiosity and their inherent desire to push beyond the boundaries of the known universe. But as humanity ventured into space, they quickly encountered others, alien species whose civilizations had flourished for millennia. At first, these encounters were peaceful. Humans marveled at the advanced technologies and cultural complexities of their galactic neighbors. But beneath the surface, an unsettling truth began to reveal itself. Humanity was different from the other species. While others sought to trade, collaborate, or even subjugate, humanity had a dangerous potential, a thirst for conquest that others could not ignore. The galaxy, it seemed, had underestimated them. Chapter 2: The Rise of the War Machine. As humanity expanded its reach across the stars, they encountered conflict in unexpected places. Some alien species saw humanity's expansion as a threat, while others, driven by fear, sought to destroy them before they could become too powerful. In response, humanity did what they did best. They adapted. The first major conflict came with the Zycorians, an insectoid species with superior strength and biological advantages. When the Zycorians attacked humanity's colonies, they quickly found that humans weren't easy prey. The Zycorians had underestimated the human capacity for innovation and warfare. Humans didn't just fight, they learned. They adapted Zycorian tactics, improved upon them, and in some cases, turned the tide of battle by inventing entirely new technologies in the heat of conflict. But what truly made humanity terrifying was their willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. They employed scorched earth tactics that no other species had dared to use. If they couldn't win through strategy alone, they would burn everything down, leaving nothing for their enemies. Over time, this ruthless approach earned them a reputation as a species that would never stop fighting, no matter the cost. It wasn't just their weapons that made humanity formidable. It was their soldiers. The human soldier, equipped with superior training and an unbreakable will, became the stuff of legends. No enemy had seen anything like it. Each battle fought by humanity's military was a calculated attempt to push beyond the limits of what had been done before, often involving brutal guerrilla warfare, clever traps, and innovative tactics that left their enemies guessing. The galaxy was beginning to realize that humanity was not just a species of curious explorers. They were warriors, and the other species had made a grave mistake in underestimating them. Chapter 3: The United Front. As humanity's reach expanded, their colonies began to unite in a way that no other species had managed to do. Earth's historical divisions, nations, languages, ideologies, seemed to fade as the human race faced the larger challenges of space exploration and warfare. Under the pressure of constant conflict, humanity forged a united front, an alliance of colonies with a singular purpose: to ensure their survival, no matter the cost. The formation of the Galactic Human Alliance, GHA, was a turning point in the galaxy's history. The GHA wasn't just a political or military coalition. It was a symbol of the human will to fight and endure. Under the banner of the GHA, Humans became a unified force, sharing resources, technologies, and strategies, pooling their knowledge to create the most formidable military the galaxy had ever seen. At the core of this alliance was the idea that humanity would never again be divided. The human race had learned from the mistakes of their past, wars that had torn their planet apart. Now, in the vastness of space, they knew that unity was their greatest weapon. The GHA's military operations were efficient, precise, and devastating. They operated as one, with the precision of a single organism, always focused on their singular goal, victory. Other species in the galaxy watched as humanity's military grew stronger, and they began to fear the GHA's ability to wipe out entire fleets or colonies with little effort. Where once humanity was seen as just another species among many, they had now become the most terrifying force the galaxy had ever known. Chapter 4: The Blood Price. But for all of humanity's victories, their brutal methods came at a high cost. The bloodshed was staggering, and as their forces continued to expand, the line between warrior and conqueror began to blur. There was no mercy for those who stood in humanity's way. No treaty, no diplomacy, no peace. As their enemies fell before them, humanity's own soldiers were also left with scars, both physical and emotional. The toll of war began to take its toll on their minds and hearts. The galaxy's greatest warriors were not immune to the horrors they inflicted upon others. What had once been a clear-cut mission to survive became a bitter struggle with their own humanity. The cost of war weighed heavily on the GHA. Many soldiers questioned the morality of their tactics, of the lives they destroyed in the name of victory. Some began to wonder if humanity was truly the heroic species they had once believed themselves to be, or if they had become monsters, lost in the pursuit of power. And yet, despite the psychological toll, humanity remained undeterred. They had come too far, achieved too much, to turn back now. Their hunger for victory, tempered by the lessons of their past, drove them forward with an intensity that no other species could match. Chapter 5: The Alien Resistance. Despite the overwhelming power of humanity's military, there were those who would not bow to their might. A coalition of alien species, the Free Confederacy, rose up against the GHA, united by a shared desire to preserve their own way of life. These alien forces were not as technologically advanced as humanity, but they had something humanity lacked: unity in the face of extinction. The Free Confederacy fought using guerrilla tactics, stealth, and sabotage. They attacked from the shadows, hit humanity's supply lines, and waged a war of attrition. They knew they could not defeat humanity in open battle, so they played on humanity's weaknesses: its emotional drive, its overconfidence, and its tendency to underestimate the resilience of its enemies. For the first time, humanity found itself on the defensive. Their soldiers, so used to overwhelming their enemies, now faced an enemy that fought not for victory, but for survival. And that made the Free Confederacy incredibly dangerous. They knew that if they lost, they would be wiped out, their cultures and species erased from existence. Humanity's victory no longer seemed certain, and the galaxy held its breath. Chapter 6: Humanity's Turning Point. In the midst of this growing resistance, humanity faced an existential question. Could they continue to fight in the same brutal way, or would they lose themselves in the process? The turning point came when a high-ranking officer within the GHA, General Amelia Graves, made a shocking decision. She defied orders to launch a full-scale assault on a key Free Confederacy stronghold, and instead proposed a ceasefire, an attempt at peace. General Graves was not naive. She understood that the Free Confederacy had won the psychological battle. They had reminded humanity of their capacity for destruction, and in doing so, forced them to confront their darkest impulses. Graves knew that to defeat the Free Confederacy, humanity would need to change the very way they wage war. Her proposal sparked a fierce debate within the GHA. The question was raised: was humanity's dominance over the galaxy a gift or a curse? Could they continue to fight with honor, or would they be condemned by the blood they had spilled? Chapter 7: The Legacy of Humanity. In the end, humanity chose to forge a new path. The war against the Free Confederacy ended, not with a decisive victory, but with an unprecedented peace treaty. The terms were harsh, but they allowed for the survival of all species involved. Humanity's reputation as the galaxy's most terrifying warrior species remained intact, but their understanding of power and war had evolved. In the aftermath, humanity's legacy was a complicated one. They were no longer just the ruthless conquerors of the stars. They had become something greater, a symbol of resilience, a reminder that even the most fearsome warriors could choose to lay down their weapons. The galaxy had learned the hard way that humanity was the most terrifying species, not just because of their military might, but because of their ability to adapt, survive, and when necessary, change. Humanity's place in the galaxy was no longer in question. They had become the warriors of legends, not because of their destruction, but because they had learned that even in victory, there must be mercy. Chapter 8. The Reckoning of Peace. Following the uneasy peace that General Amelia Graves had brokered, humanity stood at a crossroads. The war with the Free Confederacy had ended not with a decisive victory, but with a bitter compromise. Both sides had endured unimaginable losses, and the weight of it all pressed heavily on the collective conscience of humanity. The very nature of what it meant to be a warrior species was now being questioned. The galaxy watched with bated breath as the newly formed Galactic Peace Council convened to solidify the terms of the treaty. The Free Confederacy had agreed to halt their resistance, but their conditions were clear. Humanity would no longer be permitted to expand without limits, and the horrors of war would be accountable. It was a sharp contrast to humanity's previous approach, which had been defined by an uncompromising drive for dominance. At the heart of this new world order was General Graves, whose decision to seek peace had ultimately saved countless lives. But her decision did not come without its consequences. The GHA Galactic Human Alliance was divided. Some saw her as a traitor, a symbol of weakness in the face of their undeniable superiority. Others viewed her as a hero, a beacon of hope in a galaxy teetering on the brink of annihilation. Humanity's future now rested in her hands. It was in this environment of uncertainty that humanity's greatest test was about to unfold. As peace talks progressed, tensions began to rise within the very heart of the GHA. There were factions within the Alliance, political factions, military factions, and those who sought nothing more than power. They would stop at nothing to ensure that humanity's unchallenged position was preserved. It was a dangerous game of diplomacy and deception, and the price of failure was too high to even contemplate. General Graves knew that maintaining peace wasn't enough. It was only a temporary solution, a fragile calm before the next storm. As humanity had seen throughout history, peace could be as deadly as war. The galaxy's most terrifying warrior species had to adapt once more. What if, after years of bloodshed, humanity had simply traded one battlefield for another? Chapter 9. The Shattered Dream. The decision to make peace had fractured the GHA. What was once a united front was now filled with factions at odds with each other. The tension between those who advocated for peace and those who demanded that humanity reclaim its unchallenged position in the galaxy reached a boiling point. Among the military faction, a new leader emerged, Admiral Kalen Stark, a brilliant strategist whose personal history with the Free Confederacy had left him embittered and filled with vengeance. Stark believed that humanity's victory was incomplete. He saw General Graves as a symbol of appeasement and weakness, and he knew that the galaxy would never respect humanity unless they asserted their dominance once again. Stark's rallying cry, "Power above all, mercy to none," tore through the ranks of humanity's forces like wildfire. Stark's faction began to infiltrate key military and political positions, and soon a civil war within humanity was on the brink of eruption. Stark's vision was simple. If the Free Confederacy would not bow before humanity, then humanity should dismantle it entirely. The GHA's unity was no longer an ideal. It was a crumbling illusion. General Graves faced a harsh reality that a split within humanity could lead to civil war, a war that would tear apart everything they had built. Yet, despite the pressure mounting around her, she clung to the belief that peace was the ultimate goal for the galaxy. But the truth was undeniable. Peace with others had come at the expense of peace within humanity itself. Humanity's divided soul would be their greatest enemy. As Stark's forces began to prepare for an insurrection, the future of humanity as the galaxy's supreme warrior species hung by a thread. Would they be able to overcome their internal strife? Or would the dream of peace for all species collapse beneath the weight of their own ambition? Chapter 10. The Insurrection of Shadows. Admiral Stark's insurrection was swift, brutal, and ruthlessly efficient. With a core group of loyalists at his side, he launched a series of covert military strikes against key human installations, including vital supply hubs, research stations, and even the Galactic Peace Council itself. The civilian casualties were staggering, but Stark's message was clear. Humanity would not be held back by the weak or the fearful. The Free Confederacy, recognizing the moment of weakness within humanity, sent out secret communications, offering their support to Stark in exchange for a promise that the galaxy would be divided once more, free from humanity's tyranny. It was a calculated risk, but for Stark, it was a chance to reassert humanity's role as the dominant force in the galaxy. As the war between the human factions raged on, the galaxy watched as their most terrifying warrior species turned on itself. The once unified GHA was now splintered, with each side claiming the mantle of humanity's true purpose. Stark's faction grew stronger with every passing day, while General Graves' supporters scrambled to preserve the fragile peace she had fought so hard to secure. Humanity, the galaxy's most terrifying warrior species, had now become its own worst enemy. The conflict was no longer just a war for survival. It had become a war for the soul of humanity itself. Would they remain the guardians of peace? Or would they slip back into the cold, unyielding warriors they once were? Chapter 11. The Heart of War. The insurrection had reached its zenith, with entire star systems caught in the crossfire. Battles raged in the vastness of space, with humanity fighting humanity. The destruction was unimaginable. Planetary shields shattered under the weight of relentless bombardment. Entire fleets reduced to debris in the blink of an eye. In the heart of the conflict, General Graves took to the front lines, determined to stop Stark before he could complete his plans to invade the Free Confederacy and initiate another war of galactic domination. Graves knew that Stark's vision was not just dangerous. It was suicidal. The cycle of war would continue endlessly, and humanity would be consumed by its own hubris. But Stark was no mere warlord. He was a visionary, a general who understood the fragility of peace. His ability to manipulate humanity's war-hardened soldiers made him a force to be reckoned with. To Graves, the most terrifying aspect of Stark's faction was not the weapons they wielded, but their belief that war was the only path to strength. As the battle reached its peak, Graves realized that the fate of the galaxy rested not on the outcome of this war, but on humanity's ability to rise above it. The choice was clear. If humanity was to survive and evolve, it had to break free from the shackles of endless conflict. But how could she stop a faction so committed to war? Chapter 12. The Rise of the Light. As the war reached a fever pitch, General Graves realized that the only way to save humanity from itself was to show them what true strength looked like. It was not in domination, not in endless conquest, but in the ability to overcome the darkness within. She knew that the key to saving humanity lay not in her military strategies or diplomacy, but in the hearts and minds of the soldiers she had once fought beside. The final battle took place on the barren world of Nexus Prime, where Graves confronted Admiral Stark face to face. Their armies clashed in the skies above, but it was their confrontation that would determine the outcome of the war. Graves, battle-worn and weary, stood tall before Stark, her voice firm. "We are not what you think we are, Kalen," she said. "The galaxy's greatest warriors do not find their strength in destruction. They find it in mercy, in the courage to choose a different path. We will not become what we fought against." Stark's gaze hardened. "Mercy is weakness. Strength is power. You're too blind to see that, Graves." But as their conversation deepened, Stark began to realize that the galaxy's most terrifying warrior species was not defined by the weapons they wielded, but by the choices they made. The power to create peace. True peace was the strongest weapon humanity had. Chapter 15: Humanity's New Dawn. With the final blow struck, Stark's insurrection crumbled. The remaining factions of humanity, disillusioned by the endless war and the realization that they had lost their way, rallied behind General Graves. A new vision of unity and strength was born. Not one of conquest, but of survival through cooperation, resilience, and understanding. Humanity, once a species defined by its brutal warfare, emerged as something more, an example of growth, adaptation, and the power to change. The galaxy, once terrified by their potential for destruction, now looked to humanity as a beacon of hope. The most terrifying warrior species had learned the hardest lesson of all, that the true strength of a warrior lies not in the wars they fight, but in the peace they can create. The legacy of humanity was no longer one of bloodshed. It was one of redemption, and with it, a new dawn for the galaxy.